G'day Omesh, time for something a little bit different. I know I do apologise for the lack of content recently, haven't really been feeling it. You can see a video that I published earlier, a couple of weeks ago, explains everything. Anyway, health, doing well, getting there, feeling a little bit blue recently, but that's okay. I suppose it comes and goes with human development. Anyway, in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some aircraft that I would like to see be added to War Thunder. This isn't anything specific, I do suggestions for the game every single now and then. And I think I've done one every year for a couple of years now, so there are over 40 vehicles that I have suggested and only a handful of them have been ever put into game. But this time we'll be taking a look at 5 aircraft that I think should be in War Thunder. So here we go. Starting off with number 1 is an Italian float bomber, because I love aircraft with floats. There is a lot of Italian aircraft that could be put into War Thunder, and the same could be said for a lot of other tech trees, but this is the Kant Z501, and essentially it is a Catalina-esque type of bomber. It really is. It's a high-wing central hull flying boat, and they produced about 454 of them. First flight was on the 7th of February 1934 and retired in 1950. Operationally, it was used by Italy, Spain and Romania, so possibly a variable vehicle there. 3 7.7mm Breda machine guns, initially Vickers, and then there were 640 kilograms or 1,400 pounds of bombs which were externally mounted. So, you know, a nice low tier that is somewhat unique, and that gives Italy access to a decent float plane bomber. What I love about the next aircraft is it is potentially a British aircraft that could be used as an event vehicle. What I mean by that is that it's just something that doesn't have any forward-firing armament. It reminds me of the Tandem Mai. The Tandem Mai is a Russian little thing which has a rear gunner at the back, but obviously it's got forward-firing machine guns. So the Boat & Paul Defiant is the aircraft of choice here. There are several variants. They made 1,064 of them. First flight was 11th of August 1937, and they retired them in 1939. But what was found was that the various variations that they actually had different cannons, different machine guns, different radios, different, applications. Often used as a gunner, a target, and trainer. Used as a trainer aircraft. There was a mine-carrying variant. There was an airborne interception with radar. There was one that was converted into a night fighter, and the one was basically a dedicated turretless target tug. Which was pretty interesting as well. So whether or not we get one of the rarer modifications which actually had forward-firing guns or not, that'd be nice, but essentially what you have is a very, very Hurricane-looking aircraft with a turret on the back. Now, for a slightly weirder looking jet aircraft. This is a jet trainer, because I like jet trainer aircraft in War Thunder. The SK-60 is one of my favourite aircraft, but this isn't any old vehicle. It is the CM170 Magister. I believe I'm pronouncing that correct. Essentially, they built 929 of these things, used by the French Air Force, Israeli Air Force, German Air Force, and the Finnish Air Force. And its status currently is a civilian-owned warbird. Our first flight was the 23rd of July 1952. What you get is a V-tail configuration, which is quite rare, and it's a jet trainer. Plus, with those primary users being French, Israeli, German, and Finnish, these could potentially be another throw-in and runaway sort of vehicle that can just basically just be chucked in the game and copy-pasted. So, what's so interesting about this particular aircraft? Well, crew of 2, max speed, well, it's kind of just not great. It's about 715 kilometers an hour. Only armed with 2 7.5mm machine guns with 200 rounds and 140 kilograms of various weapons and underpoint hardpoints, including T-10s, SNEBs, rocket points, Nords, and various other anti-tank missiles. So it could be a very good battle pass vehicle if you're going to add this particular aircraft. Plus it matches the likes of the SK-60 and various other trainers such as the Sagittario. So, putting this thing in game would be particularly interesting. And then you also have options to add it to other tech trees because, well, those other primary nations that I mentioned also utilize it. So it could be an early jet that could be quite fun. Also, it's French and ugly as fuck, and that's kind of why I like it. Next aircraft on the list is an American prototype vehicle, and essentially, since we've got the Fury Sabres, although we don't have one version of the Sabre, I can't remember which one it is, but we have the FJs, and you know, it's quite nice to see them in War Thunder, but I would definitely like to see the fatter ugly duckling, the F10F-1, which is basically the Jaguar. It's a prototype, variable swept wing, designed for the United States Navy in 1952, and despite never reaching production, it did help General Dynamics design various other aircraft, including the F-14. So it's remarkable because it's, well, it looks ugly as hell, but it's chunky. It's got, you know, a nice, decent amount of things. And what we have here is, well, it's a fighter. It top speed of basically 1,017 kilometers, so, you know, MiG-17-ish sort of, you know, kind of speed, so quite early on. 4 20mm cannons with 190 rounds per gun for 760 total. Bombs to 1,000 pounds, and rockets can 6 127mm HVAR rockets and 2 70mm times 24 rockets. So quite an interesting fat aircraft that could be aesthetically pleasing. Obviously being variable swept, it's got a unique mechanic there, and it's a low enough tier that it would be pretty interesting to have. So yeah, it's in itself, looking at the top speed, if they decide to add this plane, it should add a proper counterpart. But it is, you know, just exactly what one would need. It's not quite a faster climb rate than a MiG-17A, significantly top speed than anything else at that, if it was placed at that sort of tiering, and just shy of achieving supersonic flight, which again is an interesting aircraft in itself. Now, you clicked on this video probably because you saw the thumbnail. Number 5, and you know, I'm not really a fan of F-16s or, you know, any F-14s. I'm not really interested in those. There is one aircraft, however, out of General Dynamics category that does really tickle my fancy, and that is the F-111. Specifically the C model. Now, why would this thing be introduced into War Thunder? I don't know, considering we haven't got an A model or even an early prototype model yet. It'd be nice to see some variable variants of the F-111, also known as the Peg. It's one of my favourite aircraft, just generally ever, because, well, yeah, the Australian Air Force did use them, so I'm a bit biased to sort of this aircraft's introduction. But as you might be saying, there are other aircraft that could come to War Thunder that would benefit, you know, the game, like some of the bigger bombers and bigger other jet fighters and jet interceptors and some of the stuff for the Fleet Air Arm and stuff for the Royal Navy, and maybe some French wacky, you know, in early premiums. Well, it doesn't really matter. You know, I like the F-16. I'm much more of an F-18 fan. But those don't really come in comparison to the massive aircraft that the F-111 is. An all-weather attack aircraft capable of doing, you know, insane amount of speeds, and basically just ruins any Air Force people who are actually using them. Now, they built 20 of them, at least the 28 of them, the F-111C, and the F-111 Aardvark itself is incredibly interesting, because having an Australian variant could be an interesting vehicle to add to, say, Britain or something like that, or even add as a US, you know, addition to the higher tier. So for me, I have full interest in it, and I certainly want to see it because it's an attack aircraft, it's a strategic bomber, it's a reconnaissance aircraft, and it's also electronic warfare. So you combine that with a whole heap of things, top speed, I mean, are you going to get to Mach 3 in War Thunder? Maybe. But, you know, for what it's worth, you know, it's just a fascinating airframe. Would it be a bit broken in War Thunder? I don't know. That's not for me to really say. But I want everyone in the comments to just spam VARK. VARK, VARK, VARK. Go on. I love this aircraft so much. It has the same electronic agile radar as the B-1 Lancer. So that's also an interesting fact. And its top speed is 2.5 Mach, so you're looking at a decent necessity of things that really works well, considering that, well, its armament you know, 120mm Vulcan, and then your missiles as AGM-69s, nice, and AGM-130s. So bombs, you got your freefall general purpose, you've got cluster bombs, you've got BLU-109s, you've got paveways and GBU-15s. Whether or not these will be added is another thing altogether, but it's fascinating, and I think I just like the Advark, please. Galshan, Australian variant, thank you, with my logo on the side. Done, deal, sign here. Anyway, also while you're down there in the comments, let me know 5 aircraft that you would like to see added to War Thunder. Thanks very much for watching today's video. I know it's a bit short, a bit hasty, but we'll see you in the next one soon. Bye bye.